What's up, guys? This is Brett from Venn Technology, here to talk to you about another one of our amazing integrations, this time between HubSpot and Intacct. Now, we've been doing this integration for probably 7 years now. And as we've connected CRMs and ERPs together, we've developed what we call standard workflows, something that most of the market out there would see as value, and then we can customize on top if need be. So I want to walk you through what we would call our standard workflow from an order entry perspective between HubSpot and Intacct. Now, how does this work? What problem are we actually solving? HubSpot is a fantastic tool for your marketing engine, hosting your website, and doing sales. They've really grown a ton in the CRM space as of recently. So what we're thinking here is you're running your sales cycle, your traditional model inside of HubSpot, and that can look different for different people, right? Even nonprofits can run development efforts, donations inside of HubSpot. At the end of the day, you're running a sales cycle, you're getting your deals closed won. And at that point, you want to take those deals and move them to your ERP so that you can create an invoice. In this case, we're going to create an order and then an invoice so you can go out and collect your AR on that, right? Even have the ability to send that invoice and that payment information back into HubSpot so there's visibility from the customer service team, from the sales team to see what's been paid, what's opening, kind of run a little AR aging, if you will. It's not true from that perspective, but there is components to that. So we're solving the problem of we make a sale and we need to go collect that money, but we don't want the sales team walking down to finance, putting a piece of paper on the AR person's desk or shooting an email, and then that finance person having to go manually key that into Intacct, right? So let's look at what this actually looks like. So I'm gonna dive in here. I've got my screen pulled up. I've got HubSpot over here on the left. I've got Intacct over here on the right. We have a pretty traditional object model. So this is an object to object relationship. So I mentioned the traditional sales cycle. For some teams, you may be running quotes, but what we really care about is when that deal gets to a closed won status. So we trigger off of an event in HubSpot. And for most cases, it's gonna be closed won. When that closed won status hits the deal, the stage, we're gonna take the master data, your contact, your company, and we're gonna go look inside of Intacct and see if they exist already or not. If they don't, we're gonna create those records for you. Again, no manual entry here. We're also gonna pass back identifiers across both systems. That way we keep a one-to-one relationship and there's no duplication for the next time we sell to this customer. They're not creating company number 2 over in Intacct. Once that's done, we move to the transactional components. So we've got our deal and we've got our line items. If you're not using line items in HubSpot, we highly encourage you to. It gives a lot more granularity into how you report. And also from a finance perspective, we're going to need individual lines when we do those orders and those invoices. So it helps us and move that over instead of guessing what those lines should be. So the deal and the line item, we take and we move that into Intacct. And if you're familiar with Intacct and some of the details around that, what we're doing is hitting a transaction definition, which is where we get to split between an order or an invoice or certain record types there. So we call this the SO document here, but what we're doing is hitting a transaction definition that will define that. On top of that, we do have a sync between your products and your items. Generally, the finance team likes to control these, so they create the items, make sure that the dollars and cents are correct, the GL codes are accurate, and then we can take those and add them into HubSpot. That way your sales team has the accurate detail to be able to go add those to their deals. Once that's done, it's now on the finance team to go collect payment, right? So your AR team goes out there, gets payment in the door, records that payment. Maybe you have another connection on the back end if you're using, or if you have a need for a processor like Stripe. We've got other videos out there. Stripe is one of our heavy hitters, the integrations that we build. So you could sync that up with Stripe, get that payment in the door, and then we'd record that payment for you automatically. I won't talk through that here. There's some other videos we'll link down below where you can check that out. Once that payment does come through, now we can send all that information back to HubSpot. So if you have enterprise on any of your hubs, you have access to custom objects. So that's what these purple objects represent here. We can create an individual invoice object and a payment object, both related to the deal and the company. So the invoice detail information that you have inside of Intacct, which is gonna be a little bit different than the deal itself, we can sync that back to HubSpot, as well as those individual payments. And this would be including Maybe you take partial payments. Maybe there's a deposit, you got 10 grand in an invoice, you take a $1,000 deposit, you got $9,000 left. So you could have 2 payment records, 3 payment records, and so forth associated with that invoice. Again, something I'll be able to show as we go through this. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what the problem we're trying to solve is. Let's actually take a look at how this works. So I'm gonna dive in to our HubSpot instance here. Now, if you know anything about Venn, we like to say that we're professional yet informal. So everything we do is pretty much on the fly because we want to gain trust. We want to build a relationship. So you've heard the saying, we're not smoke and mirrors. That is true at Venn. So I'm gonna do everything live here. I'm gonna create some new records and make sure you can physically see this information get created and move along. Okay, so I'm gonna start with a brand. I've done a ton of these. So I'm gonna start with a brand new company. Hopefully I create one we haven't done before. I love HubSpot and the ability to just put a domain in and it fills everything out for me. So Venn Technology, located here in Dallas, Texas. I'm gonna use one of our local teams, FC Dallas. I'm a huge soccer fan. So I'll put these guys in, fcdallas.com, records all the extra information I need from them. And then I'm gonna hit create. And we'll have a brand new company created with no deals, no contacts, ready to go fresh. Now for this demo, I don't really have a need for a contact, so I'm not actually going to create those. I'm just going to work from a deal to make it go a little faster here. I'm going to create a new deal. We're going to do order entry. So for our demo environment, we run off pipelines. For your team, you may have multiple pipelines for different entities, different types of things that you sell. That's all cool too. The same process works. Based on this pipeline, we go hit this transaction definition. We have that granularity built out. For this demo, I'll do an order entry. You can see we have a contracts integration as well. That's another demo we'll do, and we can have a link thrown in the bottom if you want to see that one. But I'll do order entry. I'll scroll down here. I mentioned line items. I harped on that a little second ago. You know what, FC Dallas, they need a house band. So we're gonna sell them some guitar equipment. I've got a couple of things loaded in here, like a Gretsch White Falcon. I've got one of my favorite amps, a Matchless DC30. They obviously need a guitar strap, right? To be able to hold that thing. And then let's do some picks. We'll change the quantity on this. We have 10 of those. I love running dual, so let's give them 2 mattresses. Only 1 guitar strap, 1 guitar. We'll create that. All right, now we have our deal for FC Dallas Soccer called New Deal. Nothing too creative there. Totaling at $11,077.64. If we scroll down here on the right, we've got our line items down here. So all of that totals up to our amount. Now, as I mentioned, you're gonna work your sales process. You're gonna go through the communication with the customer. At the end of the day, hopefully you have a contracting system set up, maybe something like DocuSign or PandaDoc. You send them a document, they sign it, that automatically close wins this deal. So for most of our demos, we like to talk through what's going on. We like to ask questions, make sure you're seeing the value and what this provides. So most of the time, what we're gonna do is close win, and that's gonna automatically trigger the integration. But because I like to talk through in my demo environments, I have this one set up to manually trigger. We just know that that's how we would do it. You close win it, everything fires off. In the bottom left over here, I have some Intacct specific information. So in this one, this is the manual trigger part I'm gonna do. I'm gonna set that to sync, and I'm gonna hit save. Now, when I do that, what's going on in the background is it's now calling out to Intacct. It's going through those checks and balances I mentioned earlier. I'm gonna flip back to this diagram. It's looking at that customer and seeing, do they exist already? In this case, they don't, it'll create them. After that's done, it follows the process. It'll create, in this case, an order, which I'll convert to an invoice, and then passes that data back and forth. So coming back over here to HubSpot, let me hit refresh, and we should see some details get updated here. So it's processing, maybe one more refresh, and it'll be synced. There we go, showing is synced. We have our Intacct sales order ID over here. We use HubSpot and the naming structure there. And then we got a timestamp of when it's come over, right? So there's my sales order that came through, connected. Now I'm gonna go over into Intacct. We closed won the business, we created the order, now the finance team takes over. So over here in Intacct, I'll go into order entry, and I'll go to orders and my HubSpot sales order. Here's the record that was just created. So we created FC Dallas Soccer, LLC. I can view this and it should match that amount, which was 11,077. So there we go, 11,077.64. We got the line items of the stuff that I sold them, the quantities and so forth. So Intacct's doing its thing. We do add a HubSpot tab. On this demo, there's not much here, but we can add a bunch of custom fields to represent what is the connection there. In this case, it's just a deal ID associated back. But now we have the order. Now the finance team will want to go and actually collect. So we're going to convert this to an invoice. In this case, the HubSpot sales invoice. I won't change anything here. I'll just hit post. And now we have an invoice created right here for that same amount. And now what's happening in the background is it's syncing that invoice back to HubSpot. So this is something we do immediately because an invoice was created and you'll show that you have an open invoice inside of HubSpot. So I'll come back over here and just to round this demo out, I'll hit refresh. And over here on the right side, all of our associated, our related objects, we have a custom object for Intacct invoices. There's my invoice that was created, HS invoice 106. If I go check HubSpot or Intacct, same numbers, right? So we have this nice 360. We're showing the amount in total for that 11,000 and still the amount due for that 11,000. So I won't go into the back end. Generally what we do here is take the Stripe integration, for example, and use that to pay it off. And that makes it really nice and quick. But you apply your payment, that gets attached to the invoice over here too. All done. We're showing that we won the business, we collected the money, and then we told the customer service team or the sales rep, we got payment in the door, right? Super simple, super clean. If this is something that will help your business grow and scale, if you're taking, as I said earlier, manual piece of papers from your sales team and having to go manually key those into Intacct, if you're getting a ton of emails of, hey, we just sold this, we need to go invoice for it, or if your sales team is constantly knocking down your finance team's door and just asking, hey, has this been paid? I'm looking for my commission. This is a way to help automate that and get data and information into other people's hands without the human error so that you can run faster, you can run stronger, and that you can optimize your business through automation and integration. If this is something that you thought was valuable, that could potentially be helpful for your business, reach out to us. You can go to venntechnology.com, up on the top right, contact us, or shoot us a message, hello@venntechnology.com. We'd love to hop on the phone. We'd love to see if this is something that would work for you guys. Until then, keep it automated.